Bit more of the Dark Magician special. Don't worry, clowns are still around the corner and more Blitzclique as well. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out more on this kind of. Honestly, I've been enjoying just seeing the innovations that this particular deck has been bringing to the table. One of the cool things is they managed to build Pharah into the deck. They're not using Pharah in like crazy numbers. I will say though, multiple Pharah is probably a nice addition to the deck. But this deck is not really looking to explore on those heavy numbers. You know, you're just kind of keeping things low to the ground in terms of consistency. And you kind of get the results that you get with it. Now, obviously, Mind Shuffle is what allows this deck to work. And being able to use the Black Magician to initially kind of get that set up is how this deck rolls. I also do get to see, obviously, you know, Harmonia has plenty of targets to be able to work with in here. This is just kind of the meta now. Also using the power of the Dark Magical Curtain to get set up. Absolutely wonderful. Next up, we have the Clowny Clown Clowns. And the fact that this deck is working is great. I'm also happy to see finally we have a list that's not relying on Herald as a dump target to be a searchable piece within the combo. They've actually kind of foregone that. But we're using something like Ben 10 in here to be one of the better cards. Now, obviously, this is another case in point where Pharah ends up being amazing in this deck. You know, you want to make sure that Marbleism resolves, getting you access to your clown pieces. Because the more I have seen that card actually getting stopped, the more that it feels like the clown deck actually just kind of falls apart before it can actually get off the ground and get going. So definitely a good setup and a good showcase to the world of clowns and where this deck actually can go. Resetting your resources is also another really great thing that this deck gets access to. Blitzclique. So Blitz is, you're looking for all sorts of cool ways to try to make this deck work. I actually got to say I appreciate the fact of actually having access to a Rizal package in here. Because that's been my problem with this deck. The more I've played it, the more it feels like it's missing something. And now you're telling me that as we kind of explore and build up these lists, that we have a goal now. We have an end board that actually can feel like an end board, which is kind of nice. I mean, a Detonator plus Blitzclique is probably going to win you some games alone. Now remember, there are some pretty extraneous locks that this deck has to go through, but that's not going to be a problem. As long as you're able to do everything the Blitzclique deck initially wants to do, I don't think you're going to have any real problems whatsoever. Next up, we have even more Blitzclique. This is what it's like to go even further. That's fine. You still see that like this list has foregone the Rizal package, and we've built in more of the Harmonia targets because this deck does not really give a crap about its extra deck. That's one big payoff to playing Blitzclique is, like, yes, you do care about your extra deck in some matchups. You know, maybe having a generic Link monster for you to set up wouldn't be necessarily terrible. But it reminds me a lot of Flunderies in the way it chooses to play. It's just, give us a little bit more for the deck to get set up, and we'd feel a little bit better. We even saw some lists trying out like the Radiant Typhoon Vision's draw spell just to be able to kind of get the deck rolling. So I do appreciate that. But it's the little things that you can kind of incorporate into this deck to make it feel a little bit better. Next up, we have some Sky Striker with the triple Pot of Sloth. Now, it's crazy to me that they're choosing to play Desires with Sloth. I feel like wanting to cut Desires just feels like one of the greatest decisions I've ever made playing this deck. But like, I understand that Desires still provides you with the necessary tools to dig further into the deck, so you can find those key cards to try to out those certain things. Obviously, the OCG still has access to D-barriers, so you know, when you're playing something like D-barriers, like an end board piece to thrust into, obviously, you know, thrust sold completely separately from this strategy, not included. But it's always an interesting piece. It's also not like you can't pot into it to hold it down for the next turn. Also, we're playing Gordian Slicer in here. Has the meta really gotten that bad that we have to rely on a Gordian Slicer? Next up, I love these piles, man. Farah has just really proven to be broken because any spell card not being able to be resolved or responded to, it really has shaken up the meta in that regard. And it's kind of crazy to me, actually, to think about that, because in Branded, you can make sure that, your Curtain can go unresolved. You can make sure that, your Branded Fusion needs to resolve, or your grass looks greener in this deck's case. I hadn't really thought about using Farah in combination with something like that, but that's why Farah is an extremely broken card. I do also see that we're doing shadal shenanigans in the side deck. The fact that we have seen that come up before is pretty good. Who doesn't love being able to shadal fusion into basically full dump combo going second to start the deck? Next up, standard Mitsurugi. This is actually kind of a nice refresher to see, because Mitsurugi still is running around the meta. If you're looking at the OCG meta right now and you're like, well, I don't really acknowledge Mitsurugi. Okay. And you're just going to be losing out on so many of these matchups. Like, it's kind of insane. Deck is still playing Super Poly to make the sea monster of Ducius, because that card's pretty good. I also see they have Wozu in the side deck, but we've also got Pot of Sloth in the side deck too. We have another good deck that actually wants to play that. Obviously, Mitsurugi going second, having access to the pot card to filter for more options, might provide some not necessarily fun aspects to the game, but there's definitely bits and pieces that I could see where that would be a nice little consistency enabler. Next up has been Invoked. I'm honestly kind of surprised that Alistair the Invoker managed to have a successful run, but here's the thing. You got two floodgate monsters you got access to. You got access to the Banish, and you now got access to Kaliga, which, who would have guessed, right? Having more Kaliga access to slow down the opponent was going to be, pretty good eventually. But when you're looking at this list, you're playing 6 Alistairs, which is fine. 2 old Invocation, 3 Invocation Sword, 2 new Invocation. You've also got Super Polys in here. Alistair being able just to board break by himself existing on the field, I do think is kind of interesting. You didn't really think that would be a successful run, but just in name alone, Alistair having that ability, and all the new fusions working with old Alistair, is also kind of a hit. Next up here, we have more of the Mind Shuffle deck. Now, Mind Shuffle and Farah gonna go hand in hand with each other amazingly. I do see that this list is playing triple Fallen and White, and as we have learned, combining, decks that can have access to Fallen and White and the Fallen and Virtuous get access to some kind of incredibly interesting strategies, to say the least, which is kind of cool. Now, obviously, the Ecclesia, the Black Dragon being your toggle out option for you to settle into is actually pretty good. Also access to Lulu Walleth and all that fun stuff is kind of cool. It's also kind of nice to see, you can take the Fallen and White stuff and just build it into this deck, and you're not really going to get punished by it. I will say, that's one of the cool things, right? The Mind Shuffle deck has really it's a small package that has a pretty major payoff. And then we have the Power Patrons of Doom, aka, Elf Note. Elf Note still having access to double Medius. I see we've also put in the Blue Eyes in here in case, we need to stop by it along the way, which is kind of funny, actually. Last time I saw the Blue Eyes running around was with Spheres, but, you've got Maul Charmy access in the side deck, you got Maxi, If you do happen to see the little guy along the way, he's going to really, really, really provide you with some key tools, which is actually really nice. So what do you think about these interesting decks this week? Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. I'll see your beautiful faces back here today, guys. patrons. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.